Good evening. It's September 6th, 7:39 p.m. I wanted you to listen to something. This is really fascinating. You'll recognize this guy's voice, I imagine. But this is where he tells you what really is behind the game. I don't know where this clip came from, but it's really fascinating. So let's listen to it. See what you think.
You just have to flood a country's public square with enough raw sewage. You just have to raise enough questions, spread enough dirt, plant enough conspiracy theorizing that citizens no longer know what to believe. Once they lose trust in their leaders, in mainstream media, in political institutions, in each other, in the possibility of truth, the game's won.
Did you hear that? The game's won. The game's won. What was their plan? It's Obama, right? Obama is the biggest liar. The most glib. Boy, this country has had some great liars, but Obama really surpasses all of them. But see, he plays the race card, the victim card, just like Hillary does. But he just plays it superbly. Hillary isn't convincing. Obama's convincing, as if he's black, as if he's one of the homie boys down in the ghetto. This guy goes to Harvard. He's mulatto, but he has nothing to do, and probably never been in Compton or anywhere else. Just like Kamala Harris, he's about as sympathetic to Black lives as Kamala Harris, who was the DA that was putting them all in jail for any kind of drug infraction under the Democrats' Bill Clinton. Obama's just a continuation of Clinton, who's just a continuation of Ronald Reagan. It's not rocket science. I mean, I having seen this stuff, for the better part of 55 years, say, from the time I was a little lad listening to Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention and the Doors and whatnot. And we won't get fooled again by the Who. Yeah, of Bob, the child porn guy with Bob O'Reilly, Mayhair Baba. Tommy comes out of his discipleship to Mayhair Baba and psychedelic drugs and all that. But we're not going to get fooled again by these same, sex revolutionary guys with their conspiracy theories. Let's hear it one more time. Let's break it down. Okay, this is how you do it. This is how you win the game.
You just have to flood a country's public square with enough raw sewage.
Enough raw sewage. Well, I wonder where that's coming from, if it isn't from the Democratic-sponsored art world. All this sex porn garbage that gets the NEA grants, Piss Christ, and when I first moved to New York from Chicago, the NEA award winner was Piss Christ and Stuffing Yams Up My Ass, Karen Finley. I mean, whatever kind of degrading sex stuff. Annie Sprinkle, who's a porn star, a bondage dominated. Her name Sprinkle comes from guess what? The invented story about Donald Trump and Russian prostitutes peeing on it, right? I mean, this is the mind of raw sewage, and it's coming from Barack Obama and the Democratic Party, and nowhere else. So, point one, okay, on how you win the game. And the minds, just deteriorate as people are masturbating and watching internet porn. You get your Hunter Biden come in and is he a criminal? Of course not. That's conspiracy theory.
You just have to raise enough questions, spread enough dirt.
Spread enough dirt. Yeah, they started spreading the dirt on Donald Trump long before he won the presidency. I mean, that's what it all turned. It became the National Enquirer news cycle. Jack Kennedy was having an affair a day, adulterous affair a day. And the Washington Press Corps, Democrat, right? They covered every single thing up. He's having affairs with mob, with Russian spies and mob women, and Marilyn is a loose cannon, and the theory about Marilyn being murdered by the Kennedys, I believe in. There's so much circumstantial evidence. Joyce Carol Oates believed it. She wrote the whatever blonde suicide. I forget, blonde something or another. I always confuse it with Blonde Ambition or Suicide Blonde. I think maybe it was just called Blonde by Joyce Carol Oates. But she is a feminist all for exposing Teddy Kennedy as well. And she wrote a book about the Chappaquiddick. And she has, Godard used this scene that he stole from Bukowski. That's why he's using Bukowski, and Bukowski writes a novel about Godard, and Sean Penn, I think it is. Mickey Rourke plays in the movie Bukowski's life. But there's a scene where he has a business executive being given head while he's doing business, and Joyce Carol Oates puts that with Kennedy during the Cuban Missile Crisis. He's getting a blowjob in the Oval Office. So anyway, this kind of dirt, like I say, who's it coming from, Barack? Exactly. The nonstop filth and dirt, and it just amplifies as you get into Trump running. And so much of that was absolutely, from you take some kind of remark Trump makes in the locker room, I don't know, whenever, as if this is something that's unheard of with males in locker rooms talking about their sexual prowess or the availability of women, as if Led Zeppelin or Jimi Hendrix or Zappa or their whole content of Zappa's music is about it, right? So all the Democrats are doing, but it's terrible. Plus, Trump was a Democrat, wasn't he? Anyway, it's all the same thing, is what I'm getting at.
Plant enough conspiracy theorizing.
Enough conspiracy theorizing. Well, what would that conspiracy theorizing be about? Russia collusion that was all made up. It was made up by Hillary Clinton and the Steele dossier and MI5. And the quid pro quo, that was all made up. It's only made up when you have these stories. Oh, there's a source that can't testify because he'll be bumped off by Trump so he has to go into hiding. Yeah, so Trump is the leader of a mafia team. Where is the conspiracy? Oh, and then later on, Trump is wrestling for a gun so he can lead the march on the Capitol. I mean, it gets, the bigger the lie. I know that's the Goebbels theory, and he was talking about the British. John Bull was when he was talking about the bigger the lie, the more success it has, as long as it's repeated over and over and over in a chorus by who else but Joseph Goebbels or the British press or the tabloid press in America. And it is the tabloid press. It's farcical to think that this is this is the gutter press, yellow journalism of William Randolph Hearst that Citizen Kane, Orson Welles went after. And so what's changed? And who committed all this genocide? It's a Native American. Wasn't it the New York newspapers that were calling for the extermination of the Sioux Indians? And wasn't that William Tecumseh Sherman who burned Atlanta, who called for the extermination? This is the Northern General, incidentally, if you don't know who William Tecumseh Sherman was. We're going to turn war as hell. For the extermination and they carried it out, of all the Native Americans living in California. There was one left named Ishi. Anyway, that's part of the history. So let's keep on with this. Sorry for so many digressions. But I really, this is extraordinary to me that they say it, but you're not going to believe it, right? You're not going to believe that when he says the game's won, because it is.
That citizens no longer know what to believe.
Certainly can't. You have to believe him.
Once they lose trust in their leaders,
Once they lose trust in their leaders,
in mainstream media, in political institutions,
and the mainstream media and political institutions, how could anybody have lost trust in the mainstream media after 8 years of lies from them about the Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, and their, how many wars is it? Can anybody name any of the? We know that Bush had the Iraq War and the Afghanistan. What was the next war after Afghanistan when Barack Obama came into office? And I said this to my lefty friends. I said, the first thing this guy's going to do, he's going to invade Pakistan. Why is he going to do it? Because he doesn't have any opposition. See, the Democrats were opposing Bush's war. But as soon as Obama came into office, hey, it's okay if Obama does it. It's okay if the Democrats do a war. If the Democrats want to go into Vietnam, that's fantastic because they're Democrats. But if Richard Nixon takes over, hey, it's his war. It was, hey, LBJ, how many kids did you kill today? Because it was the Democrats' war. That's right. And Cy Hirsch and Noam Chomsky and Howard Zinn, all these people are rightfully looking at all of the CIA assassinations under Kennedy's, and even LBJ was looking at him when he said we're running a gosh darn, I'll use clean language, gosh darn Murder Incorporated down there when he found out what the Kennedys were up to in the Americas. You can read about it in Confessions of an Economic Hitman by John Perkins, his name. Anyway, here we go.
in each other,
Lose faith in each other.
in the possibility of truth.
The possibility of truth.
The game's won.
The game's won. Where are you going to find the truth? All those liars. And what he's referring to, of course, is the Republicans. Like Al Franken's book, the Rush Limbaugh's a big fat liar, and subtle stuff like that. And Fox News are all lies. If you listen to Fox News, it's 100% lies. If you listen to MSNBC, it's absolute 100% truth. So everything they say is the truth. Everything the other side is a lie. Well, most of it is a lie. There's some little bits of truth, and the little bits of truth are only going to be on the opposition party. They're not going to be in the Democratic-owned liberal press. Always has been, always will be. So what I'm thinking, before this came up anyway, I was writing some things this afternoon. And it's along the same lines. I wasn't even going to do a video, but after I saw this, I was inspired. So I say, well, Americans, for the most part, exist in a twilight zone, running from totally uninformed to totally misinformed. And that references what Obama's saying. You just, I don't know why anybody, to be honest, I don't know why anybody listens to American media. The only thing I listen to is I listen to independent podcasts, and not Joe Rogan and not Russell Brand and not all the, million views that these guys get, but little guys that are digging in, from where they are and what's going on with them in their communities, in their neighborhoods, prepping, whatever you want to call them, and foreign news sources, same kind of people that are simply trying to find out and follow what's going on by reading news releases from, say, the Russian government, the Ukrainian government, and trying to stitch together what is really going on in these wars. And that's something that Americans just have no interest in whatsoever. They think that World War III doesn't apply to them, or a nuclear war. They're just not interested. I don't know. There's something to me that about Americans that they want to listen to. A clown like this Barack Obama character, with all his absolute, the Rainbow Coalition, the Rainbow people. There's a picture of Kenneth Anger, the Satanist, right? You gotta love it. He's got his denim jacket on. He's almost 90 years old now. He's out at the Chateau Marmont. That's where all the hell of rock and roll, just like that's the Chelsea Hotel of Los Angeles, where all Led Zeppelin and all the sexual depravity and violence, smashing TVs or whatever they're doing, smashing each other. So Kenneth Anger has a Lucifer. He's got a tattoo of Lucifer across his chest. He's like the chief satanic priest in Hollywood. And all the connection to him through the Manson family, the Bobby Beausoleil, the murderer, Rolling Stones, Mick Jagger doing the soundtrack, and Jimmy Page, Aleister Crowley devotee doing the music for his film Lucifer Rising. He wanted Jagger to star as Lucifer, Bobby Beausoleil to star as Lucifer, and Marianne Faithfull's in it, who just died the other week. But all this stuff coming out of the pits of hell back then, you see the same symbolism. He's got the rainbow colors on his Lucifer denim jacket. The rainbow people, what were they called? The rainbow tribe, going out to Burning Man. The hippies, the free love generation, love is all you need, and vial full of speed. Anyway, here's I try not to editorialize on my own editorial. This is from Orwell in his novel 1984. Every statue and street and building has been renamed. Every date has been altered. And that process is continuing day by day and minute by minute. History has stopped. Nothing exists except an endless present in which the party is always right. Well, this happened in the 60s. Basically, it happened with the Cultural Revolution, with Mao, communism, with Year Zero, and the killing fields, with Pol Pot, and with Khmer Rouge, and the Pathet Lao. What you do is you destroy all of history, and that's what we see with these liberal media, revolutionaries, and Obama, Biden, Democrats. We're going to have racial justice and harmony and peace and end all wars by blowing up buildings, Molotov cocktails, shooting people. People are being shot, assaulted, businesses destroyed permanently. Half the businesses, a third to half the businesses are destroyed. Small businesses, they can't reopen. They'll never reopen. What stays is the big businesses, the big corporations that paid for Barack Obama's and the political leaders I wonder why people don't trust them. That's what I really wonder. I wonder why people still listen to a word of shit that's coming out of these people's mouths. Joe Biden, you've got all these plants, these dummies behind him with their Obama, Biden, Obama. Obama's standing there, and if anybody dissents, anybody in the audience says, screw you, you liar. What about your son in Ukraine? What about this or that? Oh, boo, boo. We don't want to hear anything about reality. We love Joe. We're just like Joe. We love Joe. He's Barack's best friend. Barack and Joe, they're winning the war on evil. They're not racist. They're not racist. They love the people. They're out there at the basketball. Jack Nicholson's, he's a big Lakers fan. Yeah, if you're a multimillionaire black person, you're in the club. if you're a crack addict out on the street, it's tough. You're on your own. You have no use. Half of the people in the world are on the killing floor, according to the WEF. The WEF is perfectly frank about their plans to eliminate these useless eaters, as Noah Yuval Harari calls them. And Noah Yuval Harari, okay, is the brains behind Klaus Schwab. And he's just loved by the late night comic idiots. He comes up every, oh, yay, we want neural implants, and he's a genius. He's got a gay husband, and we want to have 5 different sexual identifications, and we got our own pronouns. It's mass. It's gone beyond what I call the mass formation psychosis into mass idiocy. It's like an infantile trip of third graders. The adults are the third graders, and the third graders are all queuing off the adults to just do whatever the hell they want. There's no moral. Nothing is bound by any kind of moral law. God either no longer exists or he's gay. There's a Methodist woman pastor that I heard saying Jesus is queer. Well, how do these people get the label Christians? Well, Barack Obama's a Christian and Joe Biden is a Catholic, just like the Pope. It's the rule of Satan. Let's call it what it is. It's the rule of Satan. And America is ground zero in terms of the target for the wrath of God. There's a lot of people, a lot of traditional Christians who are a lot more literate and read and studying the traditional interpretation of Book of Revelation that I don't agree with at all. That America can't be Mystery Babylon, and it's actually Israel, or it's actually the Pope in Rome. I mean, Luther identified it as Rome, as the dragon in the Book of Revelation. And I don't have any argument with who the Antichrist is, but I'm talking about who Mystery Babylon is. And America fits all the bills. We have been the locus of the creation of all this Obama filth, sewage, raw sewage, lies, pornography, sex, slavery. That's what we're exporting. It came from Europe. I mean, we perfected it. It came from Europe in Bohemian Paris and in the decadent Berliners with George, the communists. The whole point of communism is to destroy the traditional family and to destroy Christians. Killed over 100 million Christians, the Bolsheviks. They killed the Romanovs, who were Christians. They slaughtered them in satanic ritual abuse fashion. Desecrated the corpses, stabbed them to death, had sexual abuse. These are kids, the Romanov kids, and then buried them and decomposed the corpses and covered it all up. And it's not written about in most of the standard biographies. You have to dig down to what really happened. And this, conspiracy theories. Yeah, these aren't conspiracy theories. They're conspiracy facts. The history of civilization is the history of conspiracies. What do you think goes on at the top echelons of Rome and Barack? What do you think is going on in the White House and the CIA and the how many intelligence agencies? I don't know. Hillary said as quoting the intelligence agencies as the source of truth that they'd have Russia collusion with Donald Trump. It's all a lie. But it's all a lie. But I don't know how many people know it. I mean, they're not following the Durham investigation. And most of the judges are corrupt liberal appointees. They let prisoners out if they're of use. to the revolution. We're in hot water, and we're actually in drought conditions. The cattle are dying. The forests are on fire. And there's no real recognition of this because, like I say, it's a kind of fantasy bubble. But I'm prone to, just like Orwell or Huxley or what have you, as a journalist, which is what they were. I'm always looking at the truth, and I'm not involved with government because I'm just a standalone Christian, traditional first century type Christian without identification of political party, without any real ability to communicate with other Christians, because I think very few of them aren't off their rocker. So in 2022 in America, it's been years of just obliterating American history with the encouragement as it being a form of free speech to destroy every Christopher Columbus to Northern presidents. Teddy Roosevelt's got to go. He was a Freemason, incidentally, and all the Southern generals, also Freemasons. Well, how about Albert Pike? Where's he going to go? He's a Freemason buried underneath or somewhere inside the International Freemason Temple in D.C. Excuse me. I've been eating almonds. Yeah, I'm an uncouth vulgarian, but I try to do my best to present a coherent narrative that makes sense, connecting all these dots, like not the false narrative, because what we've got now is like absolute. I mean, it's disinformation on steroids. It's like meta disinformation. It's just make anything up and it'll fly with an audience that is absolutely clueless because they've been raised on this circus of entertainment. And so everybody has to laugh and make jokes and think everything's funny. The war in Ukraine's funny, and people starving in Africa's funny, and sex slaves in Hollywood and on Howard Stern, and it's all hilarious. Epstein's funny, and everybody's multiple sexual partners and sexual diseases and everything else that couldn't be more entertaining and amusing. So there's this level of hysteria where it's hard to not try to entertain people or flatter people or give them good news or be positive or spin fantasies, basically. And I'm opposed to fantasies. Americans exist in a numbed out, medicated terror state. Underneath the fantasies is this terror, and it's a terror of the truth. It's like they'll do anything. I've talked to so many people that I start telling the truth to, and they're giving me all this bullshit. I knew Donald Trump and I went to college. Okay, great. That doesn't mean you know anything. So did you know him? Oh, you went to college with him. Well, what do you know? This guy's wearing a mask. What are you wearing the mask for? I mean, nobody else was in the coffee shop. But that, as soon as, and then he tells me he doesn't believe in God, and okay, well, why not? Pretty soon, it's like this guy's running away, and then I see him again, and he runs the other way. And that's just repeated over and over and over and over again. The discomfort level with people that have this, that are talking this bullshit to everybody else and entertaining everybody's listening to them, and then I say, no, that's bullshit. Where do you ever come up with that? All of a sudden, bam! I got to keep my fantasy reality intact. It's working for me, and I'm I'm enlightening all these young kids with all this bullshit. So misinformation and disinformation and just a complete disinterest in information. And the information I'm talking about is not financial information or who to vote for or anything. It's spiritual information. Spiritual information is knowledge of God. So that's why I quit being an artist. I gave up. I've turned in my designation, my label as artist, and I'm a evangelist. Let's call me an evangelist. But I'm an evangelist without denomination, and I'm not multi-denominational. I'm a traditional Christian and a traditional Bible-believing Christian, and I have connection with a lot of different spiritual traditions, but there's a point where I part company with the notion of becoming God or becoming a butterfly or going to have 40 virgins after death or meeting the space aliens and all this kind of stuff. I have an explanation for all that. I mean, Carl Jung became a believer in God late in life, and he was asked, "What God do you believe in?" What I suppose the Judeo-Christian God. So I would, put myself in the vicinity of Jung, but probably more traditional than he was because he's studying myths and he's studying archetypes and he's was a mystic, let's say, and an occultist. And I was too, up to a large point when I was younger. But now I've, particularly over the last 2 years, when I've seen so many people exposed as utter charlatans. I mean, particularly the diviners, the bullshit artists with all their alternative healing and alternative therapies and pseudo mystical, yoga bodies and all this crap. That stuff is cloud cuckoo land. And one of them say that God gave me a hailstorm, so it's because it dented my car, so I got a new car. Like the universe, created a hailstorm. So this dope, who's a Grateful Dead follower and some other guru out in cloud cuckoo land. But they're all absolutely arrogant, completely arrogant. And the arrogance is what I get with Americans, the confidence that, because they've got their different professions that they're going into this money stream and this line of bullshit that they know all about God and God is favoring them. It would be funny, except for how destructive it is, and that we're right on the edge of this total financial collapse and liquidity crisis. And if you mentioned something about a stock market bubble and a student debt bubble and a housing market bubble and tech bubble, and say there's a looming liquidity crisis that's going to freeze the whole financial system. They won't even know what you're talking about. You're crazy. You're insane. You must be a racist. You're not voting for Joe Biden. You must be a racist. So these same people are entirely unaware, for example, that the words "In God We Trust" were only put on U.S. currency as the national motto in 1955 during the Eisenhower administration. It replaced the de facto motto which was out of many one, or e pluribus unum. That's the initial design of the Great Seal of the United States. And the words "in God we trust" were fought from their inception as being a form of oppressive religious discrimination from the 50s onwards, along with prayer in school and nativity scenes in public spaces, and any psychiatrist who's state paid being able to mention the word Jesus Christ. What's up with that? You know, you can talk about Buddha, you can talk about Allah, you can talk about Hare Krishna or anybody, but you can't mention the word Jesus Christ. What's up with that? Ask yourself, think about it for a minute. And why is it the Christian churches that have to be closed? Well, that's communism, isn't it? That persecution of Christians in China, persecution of Christians in Eastern Europe, and then, you know, in Romania, people were tortured who were Christians. Solzhenitsyn, Dostoevsky, the Bolsheviks under the Tsar. It's like there's a curious anti-Christianity that's in the air these days, and it comes from popular culture, and it comes from all of this, you know, multi-culty cults of sex cults and tantric yoga, and it goes back and back and back to hashish, which comes from the assassins, the old man of the mountain. William Burroughs is so enthusiastic about, and psychedelic drugs and ayahuasca and yage and mescaline and peyote and Antonin Artaud, surrealists, communism, surrealism, psychedelicism, sexual, child sex, child porn, child sex slaves in Hollywood. It's all part of the same thing. And that's all covered up. If it's, you know, the Epstein ring, where's the black book? What about Roman Polanski? What about Woody Allen? What about Bill Clinton? What about Bill Gates? About all the Bills? What about Bill Richardson out in New Mexico where the ranch was, where I used to live? So this is all part of the other motto on this seal of the Great Seal of the Dollar, right? It is Annuit Coeptus. And beneath that is Novus Ordo Seclorum. These two mottos were added by the Secretary of Congress of the Congress of the Confederation, Charles Thompson. The Congress of Confederation was the governing body of the U.S. from 1781 to 1789, before it became the USA. The words and symbolism come from the secret society, known by various names through various incarnations as Freemasons or Illuminati. The pyramidal base and all-seeing eye floating above it on the bill refer to the mystery religion of ancient Egypt. The same symbolism is found in the design of the cities of London, the Vatican, and Rome in the U.S., capital city, Washington, D.C. All three are sovereign states. In reality, there are three corporations that govern the world. All three come under no national authority, have their own separate laws, pay no taxes, have their own police force. The standard translation of the Latin words annuit coeptus is Providence favors our undertakings. Our should be read as the Illuminati or the Masons, not the American citizens, most of whom were not entitled to vote, and many weren't even considered to be human human beings possessing the God-given rights enumerated by the Freemason Thomas Jefferson in the Declaration of Independence, which can be read as a declaration of economic independence from the Freemasons of England, who were taxing them very mildly. They're just a tax on tea. But really, the creation of this new order meant this imperial ambition from the beginning to dominate. That's what Masons do. And the Jesuit order from Rome is their military order who joined with the Masons. The motto Novus Ordo Seclorum was translated by Charles Thomson, who designed the Great Seal, as a new order of the ages. The Novus Ordo, or New Order, Mass that replaced the traditional Latin Mass came into being in 1969 at the order of the infallible Pope Paul VI. All Catholic popes are infallible. They're God in the flesh, as they have ordained themselves. That would be another Antichrist, would be the Pope in Rome, the current first Jesuit Pope, Pope Francis, or Bergoglio. Where am I at? 41 minutes. See, I think I'll stop there because they go on too long. I'll stop at 41 minutes and just let's hear it one more time because it's really fascinating. It's just like when Bush made it's just all these Freudian slips. A Freudian slip is when your subconscious reveals something that you don't intend. And it's when Bush described the so-called invasion of Ukraine by Russia and the war crimes and all this. And he said Iraq, the invasion of Iraq instead of the invasion of the Ukraine. I mean, and it's really clear to anybody looking at it that the American invasion of Iraq was a much more one-sided, unfair, bombing into obliterating a defenseless army and defenseless citizenry with collateral damage being of no concern, and the robbery of precious antiquities by treasure looters, while we sat outside and did nothing and securing the oil. It was a pure grab of the oil. It's a new world order, George Bush's new world order. So this all intersects, And we're, in spiritual terms, we're in the end times. We're in the tribulation. We're at the end of church history. We're seeing the rise of the Antichrist and various Antichrists and false messiahs and false teachers and false prophets and all of this hokum of revival and revolutionary fervor of a utopia, the Yoko, John Lennon, atheist, me, communism, socialism, power trip, so that's the Masonic Illuminati. And Lennon is connected, and the Beatles are connected with the Masons. All you have to do, at some point I'll do a video on the Sgt. Pepper's album and all the occultists, from Aleister Crowley and Karl Marx, who was a Satanist, and even Wallace Berman, the Collage San Francisco hippie movement. It's called beatnik hippie. It's all the same occult, satanic, Luciferian, dark powers that control the earth. They control them through this sex and mind-controlling drugs and nonstop fantasy, entertainment, and self-pleasuring. It's the lovers of pleasure instead of lovers of God. And what God says, and I'll repeat this, is, come out of her, my children, come out of Babylon, whether it's Babylon, Rome, or Babylon, London, the city of London, or Western Europe, or wherever there's this carnality and flesh and desire for possessions, desire to have luxury cars or luxury designer labels or luxury entertainment. That's preaching against having any kind of pleasure. I'm not preaching at all. I'm just describing what the wages of being possessed by possessions and carnality and having no discipline, no prayer, no fasting, no love of God. As Jesus said, to love God is to obey my commandments. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. And there's no way to the Father but through Jesus. God bless.